Vi ska gå vidare i dagens agenda och nu byter vi språk också till engelska. So I want to introduce Initiator Pharma as the next company to be presented here and with me in this studio. We have Claus Olesen, CEO of Initiator Pharma, who will be presenting the company. Please go ahead, Claus.
Thank you very much, Klas, and apologies for having to do this in English, but my Swedish is still not improved enough for you to understand what I'm saying, and that will be disappointing, of course. In Initiator Pharma, we are developing innovative drugs for sexual dysfunction and pain. I'll come more into that. But we are actually a company that delivers clinical data. So with our 2 lead candidates, we are tested in the clinic, we have shown that they are safe, and we actually reach the primary endpoints in the clinical trials that we have conducted. Pudafensine, our lead candidate, has shown in a phase 2b study in organic erectile dysfunction that it reached the primary endpoint, and it was done in 130 patients. And also we have seen from a phase 1 study that we actually had pain relief on induced pain in this. So this is what we call a capsaicin study, but it's a normal pain challenge study you always do with a new drug. Of course, this is really interesting because this is a non-opioid drug that we are developing, and of course there is a need for new drugs that will give pain relief as well. Our other lead candidate, 2018, have shown clinical proof of concept in a phase 2a study in 24 patients suffering from what we call psychogenic erectile dysfunction. And our corporate value right now is actually to leverage this data, go out there, find M&A opportunities, pharma partnerships, so we can continue creating more value on our lead candidates and assets for the good return for the shareholders and the company. So just briefly, we are a Danish company listed here in Stockholm. Our biggest shareholders is Link AB. Adrigo also sits on a healthy portion. And MAC, which is actually the CRO that we use to conduct our clinical trials, actually did a deal with us where they paid for the trial and they converted it into shares. And at the time we did that, they actually converted into a premium of 70%. So the pipeline I already spoke about a little bit of what we have generated so far, but I would also like to talk about a little bit what we want to generate. We also have seen that the drug that worked in men that suffered from sexual dysfunction actually also works in women. And now, of course, we have only done preclinical models in animals. So we can see that when we test this drug in there, we can induce the desire, we can induce the sexual function in women as well. We have also seen, as I said, that pain, we saw in the phase 1 study that we had really good pain relief, and we are still exploring how to leverage that best, how we get most value out of that very nice pain relief that we saw. In addition to that, we have another compound in the pipeline, 2016, which is still in the pre-clinical development and also within the neuropathic pain space. So just briefly on erectile dysfunction. So what you can say that isn't there a lot of products out in the market today? Yes, there is, and you know them, Viagra and Cialis and so on. But we are actually going after the patients that do not respond adequately to the current standard of care. We know there's more than 400 million men suffering from erectile dysfunction, and about 35% of these men do not respond to the first line treatment. So they do not get enough response from the PD5s, or they cannot tolerate the PD5 products. If we look at specific segments, for example, people with diabetes, we see the non-responder rate increasing even further. The only treatments today for these non-responders are injectables. So actually you had to inject yourself directly into the penile tissue, or you insert a small tablet in the urine tract, and that way you can actually get an erection. This is done with a compound called alpostadil, which actually drives, you can say, a peripheral response that's not dependent on stimulation. So it means that you can inject yourself and then you get an erection no matter where you are and what mood you're in. And of course, we all know that having an intimacy or an intercourse is also very much a mind game. It's not only about having an erection. There's more to it than that. So I'll come into that. So what is it actually we do? Well, our compound is acting on the central nervous system. And why is that so important? So we actually strengthen the normal erection response. And this is actually the same thing that happens in women, but it's just much more difficult to see than it is in men. So dopamine is the main neurotransmitter in the CNS, actually for that facilitates sexual motivation, it facilitates copulation and genital reflexes. And what actually happens is that when you see something nice, you're being touched, you remember something nice, you actually get a release in the cortex of dopamine. This dopamine then binds to its receptors and it leads to a cascade of signaling down through the spinal cord, out to the arteries that flow blood into the penile tissue or the genitals of the women. And then actually what we see, they gave a production of what we call nitric oxide, meaning that the artery opens up, and then we get an erection or a genital reflex. So you can say what we do, we actually go into the brain and we support this. So our drug actually goes in and helps increasing the dopamine that is released during stimulation. As you said, the PD5s and so on, so Viagra and Cialis, they only have a peripheral effect. So you can say we actually strengthen the normal response, and also we have effect on the peripheral system as well. So what we have shown with our drug candidate, we have shown that they actually, in the 130 patients, that we actually get increased efficacy of the drug, so we get a better response. One of the endpoints that we are measuring, can you get an erection and can you penetrate? And we see that. We can also see that the patients all overall actually get more satisfaction out of the intercourse studies. They actually are happy using the product. And very importantly, we do not see any side effects. I'll come back to that. So again, the ED market is a very large market, more than 400 million patients out there. But of course, there is some big competitors. But we actually also have preclinical data. I'll just show you in a slide in a second that you can actually combine our drug with a peripheral acting drug, the PD5s. Because again, it's two different MOAs. One is actually helping the natural erection response, where the PD5 is kind of prolonging a natural occurring erection. So looking at the safety profile, we actually saw we dosed more than 450 doses of this compound, and we do not see anything that any adverse effects. So it's a very safe drug, and that's very important when we are treating what some people refer to as a lifestyle. But I would like to just really emphasize, it's not only lifestyle. We can see people that do not have a functional sexual relationship actually have higher incidence of suicide, marital divorces, alcohol abuse, and so on. So it's much more than just a lifestyle. It's quality of life though, but it is important that it works for both parties. Also, what it does with the combination, we actually can see we can get additional patent protection. We have made new formulations for the capsules with instant and extended release products. So it actually gives us protection all the way beyond 2044. I promised one scientific slide, and if you forget everything on the left, but just look on the right of the graphs here. At the top, we see what pudafensine is doing in a rat. Here we are measuring pressure in the penis. So you can see when we give the compound pudafensine 1 mg per kg, you start seeing these spontaneous erections. So this is actually supporting the natural erection response. What then happens when you add a PD5 inhibitor? You first see the PD5 inhibitor is added at 1 mg per kg. You see no changes in the blood pressure. And again, remember, that's because it only can work on the peripheral arteries. So you need to have an erection before it can do anything to extend the erection. When you then add pudafensine on top of it, you get the combination effect that we are looking for, where you can see you get increased efficacy out of the product. So why actually go into this? Well, we actually see that when we go out there with the monotherapy, we can see there's a lot of interest in that. You can say, when I say a lot of interest, there's some of the big companies that actually are in this space are very keen to extend onto their portfolio. But many of these companies already are selling PD5s, either generic or branded generics. So they will this cannibalize on their own products? So one of the things we are discussing with them, let's take these two products, put it together in a fixed dose combo. So we both have the central acting effect and the peripheral effect with this product. And that's actually given us a lot of new conversations with some of these pharma companies, because now they actually can see that they can get market exclusivity with this new fixed dose combo. They can see they will get a unique positioning in the market having this product. And again, there will be extended IP on that. So here, the last couple of minutes, I'll just talk about the women's health, because as I said in the beginning, we have also looked at what we call female sexual dysfunction. And we actually know that 1 out of 10 women in the US is suffering from low desire and associated distress. It's not enough to have low desire that you don't get the diagnosis female sexual dysfunction, but you also need to be distressed about it. We know that this lack of desire increases with age, but we also know that the women actually are not getting so distressed about it when they get older. So it's about 10% throughout the year, which is a huge indication. And there's no approved drugs in this space for postmenopausal women. There is 2 products approved for pre-menopausal women. One of them is an injectable, and the other one is a product you need to take every day. So not very attractive, and with limited efficacy actually. So just giving you a brief background on female sexual dysfunction, you can say that consists of many different components. It's a very complex disease. But in the middle, we have what we call hyperactive sexual desire disorder, so the lack of desire that I talked about. And we know that dopamine, we have shown that in the animal models, that we can strengthen this. We can also see in the models that I talked about before, we actually associated to sexual dysfunction, there is pain. So a lot of women that actually suffer from FSD also have associated pain. We have a good pain profile for pudafensine. We have shown that in preclinical models. We have also shown it in healthy volunteers in a phase 1 study. So you can say that we actually can come in and attack multiple of these root causes of female sexual dysfunction. So what I'm talking about, the pain data is actually, this is the study we did in the phase 1, where we in healthy volunteers, 24 men actually we brought in here. We gave them 2 doses of pudafensine, then we used pregabalin, an existing known pain drug, and placebo. And we actually showed that we actually had statistically significant effect on allodynia, which is one of the primary pains we see in women suffering from FSD. So actually, we think that pudafensine is also very well positioned for female sexual dysfunction. Again, we have this central acting effect, as we saw for the men. We see that we have a lot of supported preclinical data. Here I'm talking about animal models that we have conducted, but also on the clinical trial that we have done in the pain study in the phase 1 on healthy volunteers. Our product is an oral on-demand, so it's a tablet you take when you want to engage in intercourse. You will have coverage for more than 24 hours, so you don't need to be so specific with the timing. And again, the product is not doing anything yourself. It's dependent on you getting stimulated and aroused by yourself, and then it will strengthen that response. It's a non-hormonal, which is really important, especially for women as well. And again, it's a very favorable drug safety profile of it. And as there's nothing approved, it's actually a very favorable market. Looking at peak sale opportunities in the US between $2 to $3 billion US. In the Europe, you will get a less price for such a product, so the market will be substantially less. So just to finish up our corporate priorities, so we want to continue to build shareholder value. And one of the things that we're actually looking at here is to expand the sexual health franchise. So we have now clinical data showing that it works in men. We would very much like to show that in women as well. And we also want to exploit the early phase 1 data we had in pain. And we actually see an opportunity, potentially one could do something together with both looking at pain and female sexual dysfunction at the same time. And we are discussing that with partners as well. And of course, secure a partnership or an M&A. We are going out, that's what the market has been asking for. Claus, when do you have a deal? There's not so many companies in this space. We all talk about women's health, but not many people are doing anything about it. But we actually see, since we announced that we wanted to do in women's health, we get more dialogues with companies, more advanced dialogues, and also companies that actually want to be bigger. So medium-sized companies that see a unique opportunity in the market here. So we're looking forward to expand there. And of course, we want to do that to optimize the return for all the investors and the company itself. And with that, I would like to say thank you and looking forward to questions.
Thank you so much, Klaus. And you have touched upon this quite a lot now, the partnering. But of course, you have not communicated any new clinical initiative from your side, so I guess this is dependent on the partnering process. So I will have a question anyway, but could you give any more information where you stand in this process? You started this in January last year, and where have you?
Yeah, I'm just as impatient as you are, Klas. I would like this to move. I actually think that we are moving ahead. We are going ahead on multiple fronts. We see an interest in the monoamine ED product by itself. People actually believe in the data that will be enough for standalone product. They're looking at, what does it require from the regulatory authorities. We have a good dialogue on that. We know the endpoints from previous approved drugs. So that is one of the tracks that we are coming down. Then we also have this track that I talked about, the combination product, where pharma companies are a little bit afraid that they will cannibalize, having a new product. We are, of course, trying to tell them that this is differentiated. It will be marketed for the non-responders, so that the ones who do not respond adequately to the current standard of care. So they definitely see this opportunity to do a combo study. And of course, the discussion is here. We have shown that it works in animals, and what we are discussing here, if you want to see it with your PD5, you want to see it with Viagra, you want to see it with Cialis, you should actually be the one taking up the cost for conducting that trial. And that could be a phase 2 trial in 200 patients, but we are looking to get that financed by some of the partners that we have. And then the last part you can say is that the women's health angle, which is actually, you can say now I talked about, female sexual dysfunction, the low desire that we see, and it's a major driver of FSD, but also the pain. We actually see, and we alluded to that also in the year-end report, that one of the indications that we see in pain is vulvodynia. I think maybe here in the audience, maybe one or two have heard about it, but it's just as common as endometriosis, which we all have heard about. But there's actually a severe pain in the vulva that there's no approved therapies. And actually we think that could be a good mix together with the female sexual dysfunction. And that actually brought in a lot of new conversations. As you saw, Vertex just got their pain drug for acute pain approved. And so there is a lack of new good pain modulators out there. And we think that we have shown that ours is very safe. We have also good preclinical data, and we have the clinical data. So that's also a dialogue we're having, which is of course a little bit away from the ED part, but it's the same drug candidate, but it just expands the scope of companies that we are speaking with, and that things we are helping driving the process.
But would it be an alternative to split up the ED and the female sexual dysfunction indications, or is that not?
I think it's difficult to split it up because it's the same. Pudafensine is the same one. We have also shown that 2018 actually has an effect on female sexual dysfunction as well. But it has a different profile than pudafensine. So we actually think that it should be one or the other. But we actually have some conversations with some companies that actually see it could be used as a couples therapy, right? So the same product for both women and men.
And you started this process at JP Morgan last year.
Yeah.
But how long should we? I mean, when is the end point for this sort of a process? Would you say? But when could we get a final decision, or maybe perhaps earlier, sort of a deal?
Yeah, I think that there will be a multiple decision. I don't think it will be just one deal. I think that what we see that there's a lot of interest from global players, but they would like to take one of the big regions. But we also see interest from more regional players, that actually covers Asia, excluding China. Somebody just having China. So I think it will be, you can say, multiple things we put together. And that could potentially also be depending on who wants actually to conduct the next, do they want to do this combo study? Do they want to finance that? And do they want the global rights for that? And will they pay for it? So I think we are getting closer. Without saying too much, we are on a good track. I am actually, maybe I'm here this morning early, but I'm actually very tired because we actually have a lot of conversations going on at different times a day. So we actually see a lot of good movements. We see interest, and definitely saying that we're going to buy Europe Spring next week, where we actually are going to reconnect with a lot of the ongoing discussions we have and trying to take it to the next level.
Yeah. And if you have a deal, would that sort of make you sort of expand your portfolio and move forward with the other programs that you have in the preclinical setting?
So we are having discussions on some of the other products, like the 2016. That's a product that we also seen interest because it's again in the pain space. We have seen that people have tried many different modalities in the pain space, trying to find something new, and a lot of them have actually failed. Primarily because they have high placebo effects in their trial, but also because the targets are not validated enough. 2016 is again, it's modulating the monoamines, just like we do with pudafensine in 2018, which is a known way of providing pain relief in these patients. 2016 has the benefit that it has a very good safety profile. We do not see any of the off-target effects that we see with other compounds belonging to this class. So we definitely see an opportunity to do something here, also moving it out of their preclinical development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Do you have any questions from the audience? If not, then I want to thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you for the questions.
And thank you for
listening.